Hi, I'm Jim McCann, founder of 1-800-Flowers. We created this podcast to share the wonderful people we get to interact with, we get to meet, we get to know, and most importantly, get to learn from. So I invite you to join us on this journey here on the Celebrations Chatter podcast.
There you are. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Terrific. Things are good in the world of Mindy Grossman?
Things are really good. I'm in the world of Consello, as you know, with Declan and Group, and it's been great. Almost a year.
Is it a year already? My goodness.
Literally, the company is just turning a year old. It's been otherworldly.
So give us an idea what it's like. You had this amazing career in the apparel industry, taking all that, going to Nike, where you hit the ball out of the park, and then running different businesses, reinventing what shopping looks like, what live shopping, integrating in digital transformation, and all the roles you played. And now you have a new hat on, working with a couple of people I think really highly of, and created this new company called Consello. Give us an idea. What is Consello? What's it going to be? And what's this first year been like?
Yeah, what's interesting, Jim, is, I was at a very pivotal point in my career and, in my life. And to your point, the consumer has been my client for 45 years, and I've been the client, right? And, I've had so many incredible experiences working across industries and businesses in the consumer space. But when I made a decision in July 2021 to transition out of WW after amazing experience, it got announced October, and everyone was calling me to go run these other companies.
I'm sure, when you have a personal brand like you do, you're going to be in hot demand for whatever you choose to do. But why did you decide not to jump back in and run another consumer-facing company?
I'm a big believer that you have to decide what you don't want to do before you can decide what you do want to do, or you'll let yourself get distracted. And I was thinking that after 45 years in business, 15 years running public companies, 24 years on boards, I sat back and said, I would like to take all of that experience and work with CEOs and work with brands and work with business and work with teams across a very diverse portfolio of business. So I made the decision that I wasn't going to go and run another company. And I started having some conversations across a number of different businesses that would allow me to do that. And then Declan Kelly, who had been my CEO advisor for 8 years in his former life.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, very close relationship. So I understood the power of that and said, I'm building this new firm. It's called Consello. And it's going to be different than anything else that's out there. And I said, well, tell me how. And he said, well, Mindy, it's going to lead with certainly the, high-level CEO advisory. And I don't even use the word advisory, Jim. I say, we are your partner. We are the dedicated partner. You could have the greatest team, you could have the greatest board, but it's that other voice that's going to give you perspective. And that's what was so powerful to me. But I'm also building an entire ecosystem around that to support those advisory or partnerships, depending on what the business needs. So there's an investment bank and M&A. We're raising our first fund, Consello Fund, so private equity.
Focused on consumer businesses.
Actually, what's interesting, it'll be focused on, let's call it mid-market companies. The team that's doing it is a fantastic team. And it will, most likely be about 40% consumer retail, 40% tech-enabled services, and 20%, other. So really taking advantage of the diversity of the partners at the firm. And then growth and business development, which is very, very powerful right now, as so many companies are rethinking not just their business strategy, but where their growth is coming from. Is it pipeline? Is it new business development? Is it partnerships? And that's what Janie Whiteside's running. And then we do digital asset advisory. We have Consello Tech. And we've really built, it's the partner group. And for me, I'm like you, I care who I work with. I care about the culture, and I care about the impact that we can make on not just business, but on the individuals and teams themselves, but ultimately on the consumer if we're doing it better. So
it looks like the murderer's row there of the Yankees of old in terms of the talent you've assembled there to build Consello.
yeah, it's a great group. And what's powerful is the diversity of the group, and whether it's diversity of their operating experience, the companies they've worked for. I mentioned, Janie and Siobhan McDermott, one of the leading experts in cyber. Wendy Clark just joined, who has the scope of marketing and advertising background.
And you got Peter Morrow on the investment side.
Peter on the investment side, Oscar Salazar, who was the co-founder of Uber, Tom Brady, partner. We just opened our Miami office, which he'll be working out of. And certainly, I think talent attracts talent, but good people attract good people. And I think that's a big part of it. So, we think of it as a collaborative environment. So I'm a partner and I work across the firm, depending on what the missive is or what it is we need to deliver. And that's the part I'm loving a lot, is the diversity of the industry and business, and the scope and range of the things that we're doing. And
but
so
you've not been in a company small like this, although it's grown dramatically in its first year, but you've not been in a small company ever.
I know. But, I don't think of size as the factor. I see impact as the factor. And, I've made very unorthodox decisions in my career. When I left Nike, after 6 years, I was running their global apparel business. We were doing unbelievable, but I was doing this crazy commute between New York, Portland, out of the country. And, for, many reasons, I had to move back. And I love Phil. I've been gone for almost 20 years, a little less than 20 years. And I have never bought another brand of athletic footwear or apparel. Some things just stay with you. I'm that kind of a person. And I think everybody expected me to do something, go run a retailer, traditional, or go run another brand. I'd work for Ralph and Tommy and all that. And I got really excited about.
Isn't that an indication of how strong those brands are when you could say Ralph and Tommy and everybody knows who you mean?
They know who it is. Exactly. And that's like the power of brand. And, to have had the opportunity to be in environments with visionary founders, which I tend to gravitate towards, because they understand that whole conversation we had about what to say no to. I remember Ralph looking at me in the Polo Jeans showroom and he goes, "Mindy, tell me why it's Ralph Lauren before there's ever a logo on it." And you had to be able to talk to that, whether it's heritage or whether it was aligned with brand and value. It's important. But when I was getting ready to leave, Nike, I said, no, I want to take advantage of what was happening in technology, in culture, in human behavior, and in business. So, I had the opportunity to be traveling around the globe when mobile was growing at such a fast pace, but before it really was in the United States. Japan led it faster in other countries.
Korea, yeah.
Exactly. So I said, I want to take advantage of mobility. People are consuming content in a very different way. Brands are becoming distribution captive. People want to have experience, not just product, and they want it seamless. And I wrote all that down. And when I got a call one day from, a search firm saying, you really need to have lunch with Barry Diller and you need to run IAC retail. And I said, look, it'd be great to have lunch with Barry, but what is IAC retail? And they said, well, it's a portfolio of businesses, including Home Shopping Network and catalog portfolio, et cetera. I really was not very familiar with quote unquote TV shopping. And I said, look, I'm fascinated and give me 2 weeks and then I'll have lunch with Barry. Because even if, I'm going to go and have a perspective on the business, on the brand, and where it can go. And so I literally spent 2 weeks immersed, right, in going, what would I do with this business? Because I knew it needed to be transformed. And I was literally watching and clicking back and forth. And I was watching Food Network and I clicked on HSN and I saw Wolfgang Puck. And he was the most engaging, entertaining, editorial, everything you wanted. And he had incredible product, but he never sold. It didn't feel like selling. And I said, there's a whole new business for the industry called editorial program commerce. It's everything that everyone is doing today.
But
right?
I remember you being quoted in the media, and people were fascinated when you brought that concept to life. And you saw there that, wait a minute, you have the commerce piece down, you have the non-place-based commerce piece down, but what you don't have is this environment where people feel comfortable, they feel connected to the personality, and they feel like they're part of a community. And those are the pieces on the board that you saw.
Those are the most critical pieces, content, commerce, community, and creating relationships. And I do think, and this, again, better than anyone, the brands that build community, right? And they have a relationship with who it is that they want to be part of their brand. And that's what the Nikes have been able to do. That's what, the Ralph's been able to do. I've been on the board, for example, of Fanatics for 6 years.
They're working right out of your playbook.
And just the fact that at this point, they have 80 million fans. Well, what else can you do for those fans? Right?
Well, maybe a little gaming.
Exactly. So to go from a vertical to a platform, and I remember 6 years ago when people would say to me, what boards are you on? And they thought I was going to be on these big corporate boards. And I said, no, I'm on the board of Fanatics at the time. And they go, Fanatics, right? Wasn't top of mind. Fast forward 6 years later, I'm in a meeting and somebody presents a deck to me that says, we want to be the Fanatics of beauty. We want to be a platform. And that's when and that's why I'm so excited about what I'm doing today, because it's helping people think through, right? What is a pivot, or what is a way to go from a vertical to a platform? Or, how can we rethink how we can broaden our audience without alienating the audience that we have? Those are, really real things that companies are going through right now. And to be able to do that, it's been pretty exciting.
Mindy, for people who get the chance to hear this and get to know you and what you're all about, how should they think about who should be working with Consello? And what should they think about in terms of the breadth of services that you would bring to the table?
So I think that every CEO should have that partner, should have that voice that can communicate with them and can be there kind of as they're working through the strategies and everything else. That's
so not from their board, because that's not the pure, someone who can be the honest.
And again, it doesn't mean you don't have a great team and you don't have a great board, but there's a huge benefit to having that other voice who every day is talking to hundreds of CEOs, right? So that's the first thing. The second is because of the diversity of the partner base and the businesses they've run or have been connected to, you can really identify based on what the strategic imperative is, who can add value because they've had that experience in some way. And we're building long-term partnerships along the way. And, I am the least transactional person in the world. I've built my whole career on
Not doing transactions.
Yeah. And, I'm a growth and I'm growth transformation. I mean, that's what's exciting. And I think we're in a moment right now. It's a very uncertain moment. The average CEO is waking up in the morning and going, all right, what's coming out with, at me now? And so to have kind of the diversity of, what's happening, how is it going to affect me, and how do I stay focused on my business, but take advantage of all of this? And I think about it. I took HSNI public and did the spin out from IAC in August 2008, 2 weeks before the Lehman bankruptcy.
Wow.
First time public company CEO. I had a new board, hadn't worked with before, but I just looked at it and said, how do I use this as an opportunity and not go backwards, but lean in and go forward? And I remember having a meeting with my board and saying, look, there's going to be hard decisions we're going to have to make. Some of our very high-end catalog businesses, we're definitely going to have impact. But we had relaunched the HSN business year earlier, and it was on fire. And I said, we need to invest more.
By the way, before that, you were told that that's a business that we're going to run for cash because it's on the downslope.
Exactly.
But you said, no, I don't think so.
I was the 8th CEO in 10 years. Okay, so
no,
8th CEO in 10 years. And you know what happens with that? Everybody's just waiting for the next one to go. So I had to change the culture in addition to relaunching the business. But I said to the board, we need to actually invest more. We need to protect the innovation team that's completely focused on mobility and video and commerce. And that's what we did. And we actually grew in 2008 and 2009. And the other thing, not some of the, but the HSM, which is a big part of the business. And the other thing I said is we cannot lose our loyal and passionate, customer base. They come to us. We're a source of entertainment and relationship for them. And this is what we're going to do. There's never any bad news on HSN. They've got enough out there. We're going to make this a place, even if they can't spend right now, I want them to come, and we should be the respite from whatever they're going through. And
so Mindy, those days, you have a business that I'm sure people expected you were going to run for cash, and that medium was dying. You had a different point of view, but you have, as you say, a new board you hadn't worked with before, and now you have to convince them that, no, we're going to invest in this. We're going to go in other directions. We'll protect the base, but we need to take capital and invest so that this isn't a dying business. It's a growth business. That was not an easy sell going into one of the tougher recessions we've ever seen.
Yeah. I was very lucky to have Barry Diller as the supporter when I came to the company when we were still part of IAC and through the spin out. And one of the things that, I say is I believe as wholeheartedly as Barry does, that risk-taking and boldness are the essence of transformation, and sometimes not taking the risk is ultimately riskier, right, than taking the risk and pivoting. And I think
that's an easy thing to say, tough to do when you're in the trenches.
But that's the environment where we're in now. And we ended up becoming the first brand to have video commerce on the iPhone. because we kept with those investments. And, that was also at a time that the retail community overall was really bifurcating the physical and the digital, right? And I remember being at my first National Retail Federation meeting and going, that's not going to work. And I was the only one that didn't have the physical footprint, right?
Sure.
So I had to look at things from the consumer back. And I said, with everything happening with digital and mobile and video, you have to be one cohesive approach to wherever the consumer is going to be. And I started speaking about that, externally, because if you remember when e-commerce first started, the stores and the e-commerce divisions thought they were competitors.
They were.
Right?
In many companies, they were direct competitors.
Exactly. And that's really, you had to start looking at it. None of it matters where. It matters what the consumer wants and where they're going to get the best value for themselves, whether it's the value of their time, the value of how they want to experience things. And it's not either or. And, fast forward to today, I mean, we still have some of those angst in the industry, but at the end of the day, we have to think about a complete holistic relationship with the consumer, building, to our earlier point, the commerce, the content, the community, and the purpose as a big part of it as well.
Well, you took those lessons, Mindy, and you applied them at a surprise stop in your next, which was then called Weight Watchers. But everyone thought that was a dying brand too. And you said, once again, you said, no, I don't think so. And you took your bag of tricks, modernized them, and did the same thing at Weight Watchers. You rebranded the company. You got them thinking about what they did in a very different way. You thought from the consumer out, which was, it's not just about dieting, it's about a whole life experience. What was that like? You had you've had successes everywhere you go. Now you're a successful CEO in a public company working through a recession. And now several years later, you wind up with this transformative job at Weight Watchers. Tell us about that experience.
I had been at HSNI, between IAC and HSNI for 11 years.
Yep.
We were going to put in a new CEO. I potentially was going to, gravitate to chairman. But I felt that I had one more thing in me. But I said to myself, if I'm going to do one more thing, I want to have both a financial impact and a human impact in an even bigger way. And I started speaking actually, and on this idea that the brands of the future are going to have to marry technology plus meaning to help people live better connected lives. And I also started doing a lot of consumer work on where the consumer was going. And it took me down the path of health and wellness in consumer products and everything else. And so when I had the opportunity, I was asked if I would, meet with Oprah. She had joined the company as an investor and on the board, and really to help to bring the company forward and take a more holistic approach to not giving up our expertise in healthy weight loss, which still is primary, but giving people the tools to live their best, healthiest life across all the areas of health and wellness. And we spent a day together and had a very aligned vision of that transformation and what it could be. And how did we become a bigger part of people's lives, but also how powerful the community was. And that has always been at the core of the brand, but the brand needed to be tightened and refined at one point, but also broadened at another point to represent so much more. And
I
You
can't
know,
imagine what that conversation at the first board meeting when you said, we have to do a lot of different things. And one of them might be change this extremely well-known brand.
I know. But at the end of the day, the core of what the brand stood for was not going to change. The power of community, the power of science-based and healthy capabilities that you're empowering people to have. And, that's what we, launched, moved forward. And, a lot of people remember because we affected so many people's lives, but the first 3 months, practically 2.5 months of 2020, we did a 9-city arena tour with Oprah.
That's the new tool in your tool bag there is
Yeah.
You said we're going to do a touring event. And I'm sure the people around the table are going to go, what?
Oh, yeah. And we literally filled between 20 and 40,000 people every Saturday from 8 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, a full day between Oprah, other inspired speakers, literally giving people tools and physical, writing those in very specific inspiration books on how to live their best lives. And Jim, I will say that viscerally seeing people in a day cry or emotional, but walking out having made the determination that they were going to go forward and live a better life. And that to me was, everything, because, if you can touch an individual and you can empower them to lead a better life, why else are we doing what we're doing, and that's the positive, whole thing of impact. And, I have 3 words that I've always lived with my whole life when I make decisions. Am I passionate about it? Is it purposeful? And will it have impact? And I think you can have impact in your first role. And, if God willing, you have a platform and you've built that platform and you have a voice and you have a capability and you don't use it for purpose and impact, then why'd you do it in the first place?
There's no day like a birthday. It's a time to celebrate. Every year, every wish that brought you to this point. Wrapped in birthday love, toasting a future as bright as the moment before you. The best gift is each other.
You seem like you checked all 3 of those boxes at WW. And what made you decide, okay, I'm done in the active role now. Now I want to spend my time and energy bringing what I've learned to a broader audience and not just a single company.
So to give you, perspective, I thought that time in 2008 was going to be my greatest crisis. Little did I know that there was another one that was going to come down the road. The finale of the tour was March 9th in Denver.
Monday, March 9th.
Okay, actually it was Saturday, so it was March 7th. Flew back Sunday, and that Wednesday had to make the decision to shut down. Okay.
Wow.
Not just our offices. We had 30,000 physical workshops a week.
Sure.
Silly,
I wasn't thinking of that. Yeah.
13 different countries. And I immediately pulled the team together and go, we cannot leave our member alone. We may have to close our studios, but we have to move every single one of those workshops to virtual. We may not get new people signing up for workshops, but we cannot leave our members without support. I called Eric Wan at Zoom. We took the product team, the tech team, the operations team, the marketing team. We galvanized. And in 6 days, we simultaneously launched all 30,000 of those workshops in 13 different countries.
Wow.
And I do believe that the reason we were able to do that is, yes, there was a business purpose to having to do it, but the passion that our organization had for our members and keeping our community together was significant. And
Mindy, how much worse would this whole COVID experience have been if we didn't have this video technology?
I can't even imagine. I cannot imagine where we would be emotionally, mentally, business-wise. I don't know. And that's, the power of technology and how to utilize it in a human way. It really taught us so much.
And how has that changed you? How has it changed your management approach? And in particular today at Consello, where you're consulting with Fortune 500 companies every day, the questions on every partner of yours that you serve in an advisory role for, the CEOs of those companies, they're all saying, how do I tend to my culture? How have our priorities changed? How do I handle this remote work, which is different from community to community, country to country? How do I develop people? How do we take care of our consumer? And by the way, where the opportunities of the future, shopping, the consumer, how important relationships and community are. That's so much tougher in some ways and easier in other ways when you're deploying video technologies. And they say to you, Mindy, how are my consumers going to connect with me in the future?
Yeah.
And the future is next month, next year.
Yeah. We all learned a tremendous amount during COVID. Okay. And when we pivoted all of those to virtual, we also made a commitment more broadly that we needed to keep community together. So we actually did 3 virtual versions of that tour. Okay. And with Oprah, and we'd have different themes, on 3 separate ones. Well, that enabled us, right, to have people all over the globe, not just the ones that came to North America in, the stadiums. We were able to bring people together at a time when they really needed, and you saw the power of that. So that's the positive nature of the virtual. And I worked so hard with my team to keep our culture together. We did events. We did WW's Got Talent, and we put a production on, and we did so many different things to make people feel they had a venue. But
so now you're advising these CEOs, Mindy. You're at this company, you say, we're going to do a tour, and it's going to be a stadium tour. There was no one in the shop who'd done that before. Did you call on outside consultants? Did you say, hey, we could figure this out?
Yeah.
Did you go to production companies that had some experience here? Yeah. I mean, this is not an easy thing. Oh, by the way, we're going to build a show and we're going to take it on the road. That works when you're 12 years old and you're doing it with the neighbors and said, we're going to put on a show. But now you're really putting on a show. How do you do that?
So, Jim, it's really important to us that this really was different than anything else that had been done. And, Oprah had done tours in the past. And I said to her, you know what, we're going to build the capabilities internally. And actually, the woman who'd been her chief of staff for 8 years, Amy Weinblum, spectacular, did a lot of her events. She actually ended up coming over and we built an events team and we produced the tour. Now, we partnered with Live Nation, who were literally just launching Women Nation. Allie Harnell was running it.
Yeah.
And so we were the first of those events. And because it was our team and we were in there and building, it was so genuine to us. And then we were able to talk to certain other partners that came in with us for, the tour specifically, but we needed it to feel real. We needed it to feel genuine, and we needed it to feel us. And I think that was the most important element.
Are they going to relaunch those?
That I don't know.
Yeah.
That I don't know. I've been I've been gone for a year and a half, a year plus.
Should they?
So what I would say though, my reason is, we got through that year of COVID. We made really hard decisions. Some of them were people decisions like other companies had to do. And really came into 2021, kind of proud of what the team was able to do under the circumstances. And middle of that year, I said, you know what? It's time to transition to next CEO. We've built the digital platforms. We have to rethink certain things. I think that's the right timing. And that's when I started looking at the landscape through a completely different lens, and made the decision to do what I'm doing now.
Mindy, I don't know the answer to this question, so it's a genuine question. In each of those roles at Nike, before that at Ralph and Tommy Hilfiger, at HSNI, your successors, were they internal or external? And at WW?
So very different circumstances, right? So Polo Jeans Company, we were actually going to look to take the company public, and Jones New York came in and acquired the company. And I only stayed for a year after that for many different reasons. Mm-hmm. And, ended up going to Nike. Unfortunately, the brand was not what the brand was when our team was running it. And so it ended up not having a trajectory. And I actually had worked directly for Ralph for a year running business development for them, because I'd also was president at Chaps Ralph Lauren. Nike, absolutely, succession was within the company. We built an incredible team, and actually Heidi O'Neill, who's now one of the number twos in the company, she'd been running, U.S. apparel. There was a great team there. So that was important to me. HSN was, again, a different situation because QVC and Liberty came in and did a merger of the companies. So
that's right, sure.
But we were going through a very, very diligent succession process, which, I think would have been very successful. But again, when you don't have that control factor.
In your day job now, how many hours go by that you're not chatting with the people you serve about the impact of AI and ChatGPT? The whole revolution now in search and in data. Is there a company that you work with that's not going to be impacted?
Oh, there's no company that's not going to be impacted. It's just kind of measuring the factors, including, risk factors, everything factors, understanding what it means to business. And if I think about our, everything from our digital asset advisory piece to Consello Tech, which Oscar Salazar, who is co-founder of Uber, has done a lot in technology. We're building the kind of datas and the capabilities and all of those to be able to have deeper conversations on all of these topics, because that's a reality. It's a reality.
If your clients can do nothing else but just have a thoughtful, knowledgeable cast of experts like you've assembled to have those conversations with, what a benefit that is, because it changes everything. And I'm just beginning to imagine what those changes would look like. It's an exciting and frightening time all at the same time.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm one of the people in the pilot for the Google Bard,
Yep.
And it's fascinating.
I saw a demonstration on stage about a month ago with the team from Microsoft, who were demonstrating the predictive tools in a medical setting, live on stage with voice interactivity, with really, really highly thought of, very well respected MDs, and the predictive ability of the diagnosis was remarkable, and
Oh,
the ability to
I would say in the healthcare industry,
go ahead.
very, very
Yep.
powerful opportunity across.
Now, the next question I have for you is somewhat related to that, which is, if things are changing that fast and that equals challenges and opportunities, you've been a poster child for women's advancement in all industries and all sectors, and a poster child of what women can achieve in a time when it was even tougher. How does that change the equation for women, and how do you advise the women that you mentor now in terms of change is opportunity for you, and how should they be thinking about the challenges of these fast-paced changes and what opportunities it might create for, in particular, for all of us, but in particular for women?
Yeah. So let me start at the very core element of this conversation. I have been a very outspoken person on the critical need of diversity for business success, for innovation, for, and for example, when I was at Nike 2000, I started their first women's leadership council. We did a whole assessment of inclusion. I was very fortunate, early in my career to work for amazing designers like Jeffrey Banks, like Willie Smith, who kind of redefined the 80s of fashion and culture and intersections. And I've always...
That's the most important piece, I think, was that's the first time you started to see the intersection. It wasn't fashion is out here and culture is here. Boy, they were jammed together.
Complete intersection. And so, I've been very outspoken on this. It's, like when Franz Johansson wrote his book when he was at Harvard, it was early, like around 2000, on the Medici effect, how diversity drives innovation. And I've just always believed in that. And, it still bothers me, infuriates me to this day. Yes, we've made progress, but we're not near where we need, to be. And if you think of diversity, you've got age, race, gender, ethnicity, life stage, diversity of thought, diversity of experience. I mean, all of that. And, if you're going to be, a CEO and you don't surround yourself with a diverse team and diverse voices and diverse experience, you're not ultimately benefiting the shareholders, right? Because there's pure empirical evidence that diversity in the workforce leads to better business outcomes, over time.
But I think it's important to underline what you just said about when people say diversity in all its facets is important. But people tend to think, oh, it's just about color. It's not.
I also think that specifically around the issue of women in the workforce today, yes, I think that it's not like what it was when I started in 1977. I remember when I became president at Chaps Ralph Lauren, I think I was the first female to run a menswear company.
Is that right?
Oh. And
you were a kid.
I was a kid. And, I remember at one point around that time, I was interested in potentially running a women's company. And I was told, well, you don't have women's experience. I go, wait a second. Every single CEO of a women's wear company is a guy. So tell me why. But this is the kind of stuff that, we're dealing with. And I do think that it's really important, to use our voices within a company and externally to make sure that these environments are going to support women, going to support, all employees. I think when I was kind of growing up in industries, there were so many women that felt they had to be two of themselves. They had to be their home self and they had to be their work self. And I always felt it's complicated enough being one Mindy. I can't imagine trying to be two. And I tried to set an example. I brought my daughter into work. I did leave when I had to go do things, but I also did crazy commutes, but everyone's individual. I also felt that you need to create an environment within the company that's not just having women's groups. You need allyship. You need all people looking to embrace and support and make sure that others are successful. And I've been very outspoken on the fact that I believe the reason that I've been successful because I focused on making other people successful. And that's what I really tried to do. And I feel if you do that, certainly it's going to make them more successful. It's going to make you more successful. It's going to make the company more successful. But this idea today of allyship at all levels is really important. So it's not just, women talking to women, right? It has to be fostered from the CEO and from the teams that this is a business imperative and it's going to be very important to the future of, our brand and our business. The other thing it allows for, I love this expression that you want to be able to surround yourself with a team where you're comfortable having productive discomfort, right? So you have to have respect for one another. You have to be able to listen to voices because you've got to have hard conversations or you're trying to solve tricky problems. But if you have the respect and you bring people together and you have the right culture, you're going to get through that and you're going to come out with an aligned outcome, which is the most important thing. Because the worst thing that could happen in a business is you come out and you've made a decision and somebody goes back to their team and go, well, it really wasn't my decision, because that is destructive,
Yes.
right? You want to be aligned and you want to be surrounded with the right voices and the right team.
Mindy, you've worked with some giants, Phil Knight, Ralph Lauren, Barry Diller. Some of them have a reputation of not being the most congenial in the workplace. What common elements did they have that made them so successful? And what did you take from them, learn from them?
So, when I look back throughout my career across everything, across sports, across, the people I've worked for, there's something about a visionary founder, right? Like I like to say, I've not been the entrepreneur, but I feel like I'm an intrapreneur because I've been around.
You make
so
their
much.
dreams come true.
Yes. And it's their vision. And it's the fact that they have a discipline on what to say no to. They have a purpose filter for their brand. They're not thinking of tomorrow. They're thinking of the impact of their brand forever, right? And how are they building that? And how are they creating the relationships? And how are they making the right decisions on behalf of that? And so, if I look at Phil, right, when he came back, when, I joined the company and they came out with their new mission and vision to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete. If you have a body, you're an athlete, and completely democratize the idea of who they can access. That was so incredibly powerful. Ralph and his vision for the brand, Tommy, Willie, Barry, risk-taking and boldness, essence of transformation. And, working with Oprah, for example, or working with a Michael Rubin from Fanatics, or working with a Declan, at Consello. These aren't shy people.
Not a
These
one.
people who have a real vision and point of view. And
But what a testament to you that those giants and innovators have all turned to you to say, this is what I want to be. let's make sure we get there. That's quite a testament to your skills that you've developed, your leadership, your capabilities. It's remarkable. And I guess the last thing we'd ask you to do today is, with all that you've done and all that you've achieved and all you've learned, right now your job is to help companies see the future. What three things are on your list that you want to talk to your clients about from a trends point of view to help them to get ready?
Yeah, if you think of, all of the areas that we touched on today, certainly the implications of technology, right? And it still goes back to technology to create meaning and be of greater service to who you want to be at. So how are you thinking about all the implications of technology and data and, on your business? Where's the consumer going, and how are you ensuring that you have a pulse on that? And certainly some of that goes back to technology. And third, how are you thinking of your business for the future, not just today? And what are the risk capabilities that you'll manage? What is your ability to have pivot capabilities as you go on this path? And are you thinking big enough and broad enough around what you feel your ultimate opportunity is? And all of those things are really important.
Oh, what a gift it must be to be able to pick up the phone and have you at the other end of it, Mindy, for all those lucky clients of yours who get to tap into you and the network of knowledge that you have there at Consello. It's an amazing assemblage. I'm a fan of so many of your partners, and thank you for sharing your story, your experience, your wisdom with us today. Men and women alike are out there saying, wow, if only I could have had half of those experiences, but even if I didn't, I can tap into it. So thanks for sharing your wisdom with us today.
And thanks for all these conversations. I've been listening to so many.
Thank you. Mindy Grossman, what a success story, and so many lessons for all of us here at any age to learn from. And thank goodness we never want to stop learning.
Never.
Thanks, Mindy.
Thanks. See you soon.
Bye.
We put our heart into everything we do. We are farmers, bakers, florists, and makers who grow and create with a passion. Made with love at every step of the way. Because at the end of the day, we know you're sending more than a gift. 1-800-Flowers, share with love.
Well, I hope you enjoyed what you heard, and I know I'll be sharing it forward. I hope you get to as well. Let's keep the conversation going. Follow me along on Twitter at Jim1800Flowers and on LinkedIn at Jim McCann. Hope to talk to you soon.